Hey everyone, Tony and John here, bringing you Kings Talk presented by Cap City Crown. After starting the season 0-4, the Kings have won back-to-back games, beating Miami, then headed over to Charlotte, North Carolina, and beat the Hornets. So, man, 2-game winning streak after a very slow start. John, how are we feeling?
Well, I mean, for all the obvious issues that the Kings had, um, they'd still been really close. They'd been in these games that they were losing. The 0-4 start. It wasn't as if they, were totally lacking. They played four really good teams. In the Clippers game in particular, the opposition hit some tough shots. And that happens, and especially when you're playing good teams. Um, and they knew they had to be better. They knew that, it's not like every team is just miraculously having a good shooting game. The Kings actually gave up, I think, as of recording right now, they give up the highest field goal percentage to their opponent. So, and they're giving up one of the most points in the paint per game. So there are clear issues rotationally, paint protection, rim protection, defensively. But overall, I mean, like you look at that Miami game, they led the whole way. Miami, they didn't look super great on their West Coast road trip to start the game, but they still have great players. Tyler Hero had a great game, but the Kings led the whole way, held on, won the game. Can't really complain too much. And then again, Charlotte, that was 15-point deficit at halftime, and they came back. They held the Hornets to 41 points in the second half. They're missing their best player, and Terry Rozier as well, who's a good contributor, and also another guy that I can't remember. But that was one of those games where the resiliency didn't just come from a 15-point deficit. It came from the fact that also their best player, their leading scorer, went down. And they were not getting off to a good start offensively in that game. So it looked like they were going to lose that game, no doubt. And guys stepped up. And it was probably one of their better games of the season just for that reason. Just seeing the heart of this team for a team that a year ago probably would have so easily had given up in a situation like that.
Yeah, and I was a little nervous playing Charlotte personally. I feel like the last couple times that we've played Charlotte, it just didn't really go well. I can't remember if both of these games happened last year or these games happened like in the past two seasons. But there was one game where the Kings blew like a 9-point lead in the last minute of the game to lose to Charlotte, and then last year in December. The whole Hornets, like half the Hornets team was down, including all their best players from COVID. Like LaMelo was out, Hayward was out, Rozier was out, everyone was out, and the Kings still managed to lose that game, even though I think it was Cody Martin fouled De'Aaron Fox with like 2 seconds left in the game, and he thought they had a foul to give, and the Kings were down by one at that moment, and Fox missed both free throws to lose the game. So I just feel like we're just recently historically bad against the Hornets. I think I read somewhere that last night's or Monday night's victory was the first one in Charlotte in 5 years, which is kind of surprising because I mean, think about Charlotte in the last 5 years. Like that's a team you should beat. So it was nice that we could go into Charlotte, get the win. That was like our first team that we played where it's like, okay, this is a legit winnable game, but also a game at this point. I feel like we say this every year. Like that's a team we should be beating. Like if we're a playoff team or even a play-in team, you have to beat the Hornets. And Fox went out, Sabonis fouled out for the second straight game, but Davion stepped up. Everyone, Huerter had another great game. Others stepped up and they pulled out that W. So it was nice. It was nice to see back-to-back wins because I also would have hated to start the season 1-5.
Yeah, and also there's the wider issue last season of just no matter what team they played, stars would either sit against the Kings or stars would be hurt, and the Kings would come out having the advantage in that department. and they wouldn't play any better than that team countless times. And, you know, it's just that kind of points to that overall kind of shift in this team. But I think the thing we kind of mentioned in passing there was the injury to Fox, which is, a bone bruise to his right knee. He suffered it early in the second quarter of the Charlotte game, trying to take a charge. And had, I think, the opponent's leg or other knee collide in his knee. It was very similar to what happened to Domas in Phoenix at the end of last year, the last game he played in the fourth quarter. And so they diagnosed it with a bone bruise today. They said that they're optimistic. It was reported that they're optimistic. But, there are caveats to a bone bruise, right, Tony?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to keep going.
No. I was just...
Well, like John said, Sabonis injured his knee with the bone bruise at the end of last season, which basically ended his season. The Kings were going to probably keep him out regardless, just they weren't going to go to the play-in or anything. But the original diagnosis was that they were going to reevaluate the Sabonis in 10 days. And, Sean Cunningham tweeted the other day that, keep an eye out. Fox could miss some time. It could be similar to that Sabonis injury. He could miss, I guess, maybe 10 days, a week and a half, or be reevaluated in that time and hope that he's better. But I don't know. We'll see. It would suck to lose Fox this early. Even, any stretch of time without Fox sucks. But I don't know, especially starting off 2-4. We won without him on Monday night, but I don't know. It's a little different if the Kings are up 4-2, I guess. Okay, if we miss Fox, at least we started off well. But it just seems like this team's still trying to get in the swing of things. So we'll see what happens. But losing Fox this early on while they're still trying to find their groove, while they're just trying to win games, not a couple, but, there's a winnable game tonight against the Heat. Even without Fox, Miami played Golden State last night, so back-to-back games against a good team, of course, with Golden State. And then we play Orlando on Saturday, sorry. Play Orlando on Saturday, which, again, kind of like the Hornets, should be a winnable game, but it may be a lot more winnable if Fox was there. So we'll see. Hopefully, it doesn't sound like it's the worst, I guess, bone bruise ever. It just seems like it's mild from the reports I've seen so far, but a bone bruise is a bone bruise, and it's kind of, I don't know. I'm not a doctor or anything, but the reports I've read, he potentially could miss some time, more than just a game.
Yeah, I think, I think I did a Google search earlier and looked up the recovery time of a bone bruise. And of course, it doesn't match up. I don't know if they were specifying it for professional athletes, but they are saying it's 1, sometimes 2 months. Now, obviously, I don't know that he's going to be out that long, but it said something about early recovery times being more around a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And I don't know. I think it would just be speculation at this point to guess how long he'll be out. But I think the important thing is not to rush him back. You don't want a lingering injury. That would be worse. And I think that Fox is your best player. You don't want to miss him. He's your top scorer. But it would be far, I don't know. Just to make my point here, it would be far more damaging to the team if they lost Sabonis. Filling in for Sabonis is much harder given the makeup of this team as opposed to replacing Fox. Now, that does not mean that Fox is replaceable or that, we should be happy that Fox is hurt. I'm not saying anything like that, but I think that this team is decently equipped to kind of, fill in. And I think that obviously you're looking at the back end there, probably, because you can get ball handling duties out of Malik Monk, who's been really good at that. Kevin Huerter in the 2-man game with Domas has been awesome. You obviously have Davion Mitchell. If Terrence Davis is getting his minutes, he can do a little bit of ball handling as well. You can mix it up. with or without Dellavedova on the floor, but it still kind of comes down to that back end with him. How much he great first showing against Charlotte. He hit the three that gave him the first lead. He was doing what he does on the bench, which is talking to everybody, leadership, all that stuff. He made a great pass to Keegan Murray, I think, in the fourth quarter. He was great. He was awesome. Do you get that every night from Delhi? I mean, I think you get the grit and the leadership every night. But it'd be interesting to see if he has to play for a long period of time, if he can sustain that level of play. Are the 3-point balls going to drop? I mean, it's not necessarily as important. They have a lot of 3-point shooting that they can surround on the floor. But I guess that's what it comes down to. But I get the point is at the end of the day that, you don't want to rush Fox back. You don't really necessarily have to feel pressured to rush Fox back either. I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. You definitely don't want to rush Fox back. The last thing you want, like you said, is a lingering injury. But I think something interesting that you said from what you just said is that you went between Fox and Sabonis. You would rather, I guess, Fox get hurt. I mean, you wouldn't rather any of them get hurt, but
gun to your head.
Yeah,
someone's got to get hurt. Someone is going to get hurt.
But if you asked me that question at the beginning of the season, I don't know. I probably would have said like you'd be okay with Sabonis getting hurt with Holmes and Lynn as your backups. But like Holmes has played terrible so far. He just looks like he's just lost out there. Lynn, he kind of looked not too good on Monday against the Hornets. I don't know. He's still like a serviceable big man, but I don't know. They seem a little disappointed to Davion and Matthew Dellavedova. And something that's not too bad about, not too bad about Fox getting injured. I don't like saying that, but is that Davion Mitchell in his, when his career starts, he actually plays pretty well. And you kind of saw it on Monday night when Fox went out and he was, I guess, like point guard one, if you will. And his best game of the season, career high in threes, career high in points. He really stepped up. And it seems like he likes being that guy, it seems. So here, I just pulled up the stats. But I think I don't think, the stats are right here. So Davion has 19 career starts all last year. And he's averaging 18 points and I think 7.4 assists. I mean, if you're getting that out of Davion, if he's starting tonight against Miami, it's not De'Aaron Fox, but it's a pretty decent backup for a starter. And Davion started a lot at the end of last season when Fox went down and basically ended his season, but he looked really good. And it was encouraging, especially how, I guess, poorly Davion started the season offensively this year. It was really nice to see him get in his groove, especially hitting threes. That's going to be key into what Davion does. And then Dellavedova, like you said, he just a gritty guy. He looked like he came in first minutes of the season last night or Monday night.
I think so.
And he just looks like a veteran out there. And that's why I think they took him over Cook. And he's going to fit that third point guard role a lot better. He's going to be ready to come in. It's going to be rare when he has to, but Fox and Mitchell probably will miss time, as do most NBA players during an NBA season. So he just looked great. It was awesome seeing him hit his score his first points, hitting that three.
And the good thing about that three is that there was a moment where he kind of had an opportunity to hit a three, like on the possession or two beforehand. Dished it obviously to a better shooter. I don't know if they hit it or not. But on this time, it was almost the opposite effect, where the better shooter dished it to him and he was open and he did not hesitate. He put it up and he nailed it. It was just crazy.
Yeah, no, he has a funky looking shot. I remember his shot looking so funky before, but he splashed it and he nailed that shot. But I don't know if that's, like the backup point guards so far, like, sure. It's a little disappointing going back to Sabonis and his backups. That Holmes has just really been non-existent. He scored 2 points on Monday night.
Very, very hesitant defensively.
Yeah,
it's kind of slow on rotations. they'll have guys attack the paint and then he'll just kind of hesitate on whether he should contest the shot or not. I think that happened once or twice last night. Um, he's and offensively, like I think it against the Heat where he had. I think it was against the Hornets. Maybe it might happen in both games where he got the ball like low in the post. I think on the one in the Hornets, I think it was a missed alley oop opportunity with him and Monk, and he got the ball into the rim and he still got it in there. And I think in Miami, or not in Miami, but against Miami at home on this previous Saturday, he I think got the ball into the rim again and like slammed it down. It was like an energy moment. Um,
Yeah.
and he has these moments where you'd see the old Holmes, but you know, it's been disappointing to see him. He had that 15-point game a couple of games ago,
Yeah, against
but
Golden State.
but even in that game, it was like I didn't think he played particularly well. You know,
No. I have two theories, and these could be completely wrong. But one, he's mad. He's mad that he's a bench player now. He signed, seemed like a friendly contract to stay in Sacramento. He, he's getting paid starter money. You don't pay that kind of money to a backup. Um, and he gets a bonus. And I mean, the end of last season and everything, I think that was a little different because he had stuff going on outside of basketball off the court. But I don't know. Maybe he's just upset now, and he just looks really lost. And that kind of brings me to my second point: is that this is his first year in SAC without Halliburton, and him and Halliburton had a pretty good 2-man game. He's getting a lot of lobs from Halliburton. He just doesn't have that guard passer that he had in Halliburton. Like Fox is, decent and Mitchell's decent, but Halliburton was really special, and you could definitely see that bond between the two, that 2-man game, and he doesn't have that anymore. And I don't know.
he kind of does with Monk and Davis a little bit, but
Okay.
it's just like it doesn't work as well. It's
Yeah.
kind of predictable.
Mm-hmm.
But he had like a little bit of you see that's the thing with him is it's like you see these flashes where it's like, oh, there he is. Particularly on offense, you really have not seen him play particularly well on defense, which is really disappointing. Because you think he would be so good as a kind of a more mobile five at switching and whatnot, but he just leaves these. He gets. I don't know if he's fogged up, not not his goggles are getting fogged up and he can't see, or if he's just not totally in it or whatever the case is. It's just like a lot of the times it's just like, man, I don't know. That's rough. But he's just been inconsistent and mostly bad.
Yeah, and oh man, it just kind of feels like the whole bench until I mean, Monk has been inconsistent. Mitchell finally stepped up on Monday night, but I mean, he was on the offensive end. He was terrible until Monday night. I don't know. I feel like going into the season with the potential of Mitchell, Monk, I guess Terrence Davis, Trey Lyles, who's been good since he was put back in the lineup, and Holmes. Like that's a pretty good second unit. Like that's might be one of our strong points as a team. Hasn't looked that way. It's been really bad. I mean, Monk's had some good games, but he's also had a lot of bad ones in between. So, and it's still early, so it feels weird saying it, but he's like he either has a good game or he just cannot make a shot.
He looked like he was going to have a good game against the Hornets. He had 7 points. He had all of his 7 points in the second quarter.
Yeah,
I think he hit 2 threes in that quarter. It's like, okay, there he is.
uh-huh.
Again, to use that expression again. But yeah, I don't know. But to stick to kind of the center situation there,
Mm-hmm.
Len. So first of all, it was a problem because Len came in. He didn't really look ready. He didn't look ready at all. And also, you see his glaring weakness. I mean, we talk about like Holmes has the potential to be able to switch on to other players and at least be somewhat effective, where it doesn't become this huge liability. Where it's just like get this guy on, always get him to switch on him. We talk about Domas, kind of like that can be kind of an issue with him sometimes. Um, Len, when it comes to switching, if he's not guarding the paint in a zone or just guarding a five, if he's not battling with Jokic, what is he? You don't want him out there.
Yeah.
And it's like this team is so bad at rim protection. The leading blocks is coming from Keegan Murray, won a game. He's the only person on the team with one or more blocks a game. Sabonis is second at 0.8. And, Lyles has had a couple of big moments in these last two games. Maybe that average will click up for him a little bit. But Lyles is not a rim protector. So it's like, even when Len's out there, it's just like, for all these other reasons that I'm pointing out, it also takes away his defensive strength, which is the fact that he's like a giant. So it's like I said, unless you're playing like Jokic or something like that, where you need him to battle with a guy, man, it's just like his Len's almost unplayable. Not unplayable. I don't want to say that, because I feel like he had some moments. I don't remember what game it was, where it's like, it's not like he's a huge liability all the time, but it's just like, he played like 5 or 6 minutes, I think, against the Hornets, and it was not good.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at the defensive ratings on just the net ratings on some of the lineups he was in last against the Hornets, it's just not good. And you could see it. He didn't pass the eye test in terms, and that's one of the things too. Is this team, Metu got commended for it after the Golden State game. Lyles has been commended for it basically twice now. It's just like, Mike Brown likes it when guys stay ready. And you said it about Delly. You just have to be ready. And it's just like, Holmes is part of the rotation. It just doesn't seem like he's consistently ready. You see it from Len. He didn't seem like he was ready. For as bad, not as bad. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's like, Paula was ready. Even when he goes in for those last 2 seconds of a quarter or a half, just to make sure that they don't get a good shot opportunity, get some length and athleticism out there. It's like, he's ready. He's ready to do that. Like, Moneke wasn't particularly good nor should he really have been playing in his minutes against Memphis. But it's like, he's ready to go. There's an energy to him. And that's, I wouldn't say, you could probably say disengaged a little bit more to Rashawn Holmes. I wouldn't really say that to Len. But, it's an interesting thing. I don't know. It's just been really disappointing, because you ask anybody, you ask us. I think we said it. I think I heard Brendan Nunes say it. You hear other guys say it all the time, that the positional strength, of this team is definitely the center position, because you have two arguably great starters at center, going 1-2, and then Len is a admirable number 3, and it's just not panned out behind Sabonis. And while Sabonis has played better, the other two have just kind of fallen off.
Yeah, I mean, they have. I don't really have much to add to that. It's just disappointing. I feel like that's a word I've been using a lot for the beginning of the season, especially with the bench. It's just been disappointing. Especially Holmes. I thought I really wanted him to come out, have a good year. He's just such a likable guy, and he gave us his all in his first 2 years in SAC. And I kind of felt bad for what he had to go through at the end of last year, and so I was glad he could come back. Kind of not really a clean slate, but he's back from what he had to deal with off the court. He had a new role on this team, and I just was hoping he could play with that same energy that he did as a starter, and he just hasn't. I hope he can get out of that funk and that he can start being productive. But I mean, until then, it's just disappointing and frustrating. I don't know. It hasn't been good. I don't have a lot more to say on that topic than that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a disappointment. But, moving along here, kind of getting into some other topics here. Buy or sell?
All right.
The resilience of this team. Do you buy or sell it?
I'll buy it. I don't know. Monday night's game, That I mean, honestly, that's a game the Kings lose the last 4 years. That's a game the Kings lose. You lose Fox, you're down 15 at the half, and to like again a team where recently you've been terrible against Charlotte, and in an arena you haven't won in 5 years. That's a game you lose, period. And it was awesome. Like we said, not only were you down Fox, you're down 15 at the half. Had a huge third quarter. So, Davion stepped up, Delhi stepped up, other guys stepped up, put the team on their back with Fox down, get that scoring load. And, that gave me hope. It gave me hope. Like I said, I did not want to start off 1-5, and you got to beat a team like the Hornets. So that's really the only reason I say yes. And it's still early in the season. It'd be hard to say no that this team wouldn't be resilient, but I feel like I can truthfully say, like, I can see this team coming back. I think they still have all the talent in the world. And hopefully, like we were talking about Holmes a second ago, he can, get back in his groove, and others can too, and take that next step.
Yeah, I think kind of another compliment you could give from an example of a game of their resiliency, even though, as many people have pointed out, they had no business being in that game because they gave up how many points in the first half to Golden State, but they almost came back and won that game. It was just kind of like, oh man. And maybe that was more about like, okay, this team can score, and Golden State really has a lot of defensive issues this year. Maybe that's more the primary issue there, but it's like they never gave up, And also, to take it back to what we said earlier, aside from what we've seen from Holmes and, in a much limited, much, less vast amount of time for Len, all these guys have been ready. Like you said, Davion, Dellavedova, all these other guys.
Lyles he got a did not play against Memphis, and he's played great the last 2 games.
And I could talk about Trey Lyles forever, because in these last couple of games, and you heard it, they were saying it over and over again, and I don't think that they, for all the things that our lovely commentating crew in Sacramento repeat often, this was a very pleasant thing that they were repeating, was the fact that Mike Brown in film sessions was taking a lot of moments in the defensive end to point out little things that Trey Lyles was doing on the defensive end. And if you go through and if you just take a cursory glance at some of the moments from him, you just click on the videos of his blocks that he's provided. He's had 3 blocks in the last 2 games that were the best bit of rim protection this team has had, really.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, Murray, I think, has won a game. But I think that's just coming from how long he is as a defender. I think some of those come on the perimeter and from mid-range shots and stuff. But the thing with who was I just talking about?
Trey Lyles.
Trey Lyles, yeah. He's also, like, we're talking about how the rotational issues on defense have become a big issue for this team. And Trey Lyles goes in there, and on one of his blocks against the Hornets, I think it was the last one of the game, it was like a minute left, he bodied up his man. It might have been Washington, who was having a great game. He bodied him up, stayed in front of him, chest out, arms up, stayed with him, stopped him, got him to put up a bad shot, and blocked it. It wasn't even about the block. It was about the defense. And I think the other block he had against the Hornets, it was that rotational thing that I was just mentioning. He made the rotation. It helped Domas in the paint when an offensive player got behind him and closed in and got him from behind. It was great. And I don't know. He just looked so sharp and ready to go. And he just, I think in the first game of the season, because I think he played like 4 minutes against the Warriors or something like that. And then he hadn't played against the Clippers, and then I don't think he played against Memphis. And, in his limited time, he didn't look great, but there was a lot of issues. This team was kind of figuring some things out. I think he put up like 7 threes in the first game, and he only hit 2 of them. And it's like, you probably don't want Trey Lyles shooting the 3-ball 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
And in only like, I don't know, he didn't play that many minutes. So it wasn't like he was earning his time, but it's like, we saw Trey Lyles fill in the exact not all the cracks. Obviously, a guy like him can't fill in all the cracks that are kind of deficits to the team's ability to win games. But he really finds the way to fill in as many as he can without affecting or creating any more cracks. And he is just so excellent at that. And on the defensive end, it's been a big difference from last year. He made that difference really offensively, even defensively with a smart kind of defensive approach. But at the end of the day, the guy lost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
It's just like that makes a huge difference. He wants it. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He's another guy with a contract year, and he's ready to prove something. He's 26 going on 27, and he wants it. And also, he had to have known, like, Mike Brown's coaching this team, defense, pace, all that stuff has got to be a big part of it. So in terms of the resilience of this team, from off-season resilience to think ahead, both about yourself and about your team, to get in shape, to stay ready, even when you got a couple of did not plays that you definitely didn't deserve, probably. He stayed with it, and I think it comes from Mike Brown a lot, but it also comes from Trey Lyles. But Mike Brown has always I think he said it in preseason ahead of one of the games. He said, yeah, I kind of want to like see some guys not play because I want to see how they respond to not playing. So I think in kind of like maybe giving a long leash to some of his Nigerian national team guys, and that trust is obviously strong because he stuck with it for like 4 games there.
Yeah. Too long.
He went all out against Memphis. He let it fly. He's like, you're not playing the Kings. You're playing Team Nigeria. And, yeah, maybe that was just kind of part of it. He's like, yeah, Lyles will probably get his minutes, let's just see how he responds. Because he just kind of became the odd man out if you're giving them a chance. But the resilience of this team has been so well emulated by Lyles.
Yeah. He's been awesome. That guy I fell in love with last year after the Kings traded for him. I guess he just seems always ready, like you said, and he just does everything, right. And so,
last week I said Trey Lyles looks like my friend. I looked up Trey Lyles' age today, and it says his birthday is November 5th. This friend's birthday is, oh my fucking God.
Is it the same birthday?
November 5th. It's Ian's birthday.
Is it the same guy?
Yeah. That's weird. Okay, that's wild. I just figured that out just now. Okay. Well, that probably means nothing to you folks at home, but yeah, okay. Yeah, Trey Lyles is the best. I think he's my friend. I think that's my friend.
Yeah, I think it's his alter ego on the weekends.
It's very strange.
What's up, John? He's 6'8". Is your friend 6'8"?
Now that I think about it. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, resiliency. I think this team has it for all the points we just said. But I want to hear your next. What? Sell it, buy or sell?
Yeah, buy or sell that Domas is getting dicked on these foul calls.
God, it honestly seems like it. I mean, for him to foul out 2 straight games, I don't know. I know he's not the best defender or anything, but I don't know. It just seems like they're giving him some ticky-tack fouls, and it's just frustrating to see. I mean, like, you can kind of see why some of them are fouls, but I don't know. They're just so soft to me. I feel like, I don't know. It just seems like maybe I'm just a Kings fan and I'm biased, but I don't know. I feel like we're not getting some of those calls that they're calling against Sabonis. So why is he getting them? I don't know. What are your thoughts? I think he's getting boned.
I think
he's getting sub-boned.
I think that there are a lot of calls that have been just downright bad. I think the 6th foul against Miami was just ridiculous. But I also think that with kind of like Domas is your best paint defender right now. He puts himself in a good position. He's not a rim protector, and he's not particularly athletic. But he puts himself in decent enough position. His defensive rating's not terrible. I think it's 110.7 ahead of this Miami game. He's just out there all the time, and teams know. I mean, like, I'm sure it says it in the scouting report on him, something about susceptible to fouls. That kind of was more of a problem, obviously, under Billy Donovan in OKC, but it's there. And there's also the fact that, well, who else is defending the paint? And well, now game after game, teams are figuring that out. They're like, oh, Domas fouled out. It's like that is definitely a point of emphasis for these opponents because they know how big he is. And for this Kings team, that is.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of a few bad calls. Like, for instance, the two calls, by contrast, the two calls that I think the last two, I think it was the moving screen, and then I think the other one was a block because his foot was on the line. Like, it was a moving screen.
Mm-hmm.
His foot was on the line. It's like, okay, those are fair calls. Now, that still obviously is huge impact. Players get breaks all the time. They miss calls all the time. It does feel like Domas doesn't really get favorable calls to go his way. It's not like he gets breaks, I wouldn't say. I feel like that's a fair condemnation of the refs for sure. And then there's a few calls that are just absolutely ridiculous. But at the end of the day, I think it's a combination of bad officiating to kind of Domas's own traits, to the susceptibility Domas has without really much help. And also the fact that teams are going to target it. So I think it's kind of like, was that 5-pronged thing? It's kind of complex, but I think it's fair to kind of be pissed at the refs. And honestly, overall, it's not just Domas. The Kings are not going to get calls. I mean, the Kings haven't been in the playoffs in 16 years. You hear former players talk about it all the time, that you don't win games, you don't get respect from the refs. That's stupid, but it's like, well.
But what about a 2-time All-Star?
And that's what I'm saying. And he doesn't get the favorable calls. I think that's a fair thing. So, like, I don't know if I necessarily buy it all the way. I wait for this to get a discount, and then I buy.
We'll see how it keeps going. It's still early on. I just see him, I don't know, just a couple drives I see, and it seems like he has his hands up, and he maybe has his chest out a little and a little bumping, but it's basketball. It's going to be physical, especially getting into the paint. And it just feels like they're bailing him out and hurting our chances. And it's like, I don't know. Is that really a foul? Like, yeah, maybe it is by the like the book definition. But it just, I don't know.
It's definitely makes a huge difference that he never gets the benefit of the doubt.
It doesn't. And then you go on the other end and we don't get a call like that. And it just feels, it's just frustrating.
I totally get that. I totally get that.
So we'll see. I mean, it's also early still, and maybe stuff will change. But at this moment, I think he's not getting fair calls all the way, and that's why he's fouling out. Like, of course, it's not like he's just the best defender and he doesn't foul. Like, of course he fouls, but I don't think he should be fouling out of these games. I don't think he should be being in such high or foul trouble so early on.
Yeah,
because I think he's just getting a couple bad calls, like 2 bad calls, boom. Could be at 4 fouls instead of 2.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I also, just on an optimistic, level, you have to understand too that, like, damn, like Mike Brown really gets into his guys on the tape and in the film room when it comes to that stuff, and they'll work on it. I'm sure a week or two from now, like, he dropped 1 or 2 fouls, just the ones that he is like maybe really committing, make better use of his hands. Katie Christensen was a big when she played, so she was talking about it pretty, in depth about there are some of these calls where maybe he's not in the best position, or he's not using his hands, putting his hands in the right position, or keeping them too low, or whatever the deal is. And so it's like, though, it's sort of very correctable. So it's like, give it a few games, you might start to see him adjust that. So it can definitely get better. Not necessarily saying that, because I don't know how they're going to fix the fact that he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. That's totally fair. That's ridiculous, and it hurts them. That's no doubt.
Cutting out fouls one way or the other will be helpful. Whether it's the ticky-tack ones, or just cutting out the ones you said, or he is actually fouling, and if you can work on those, then the ticky-tack ones won't feel so bad. So we'll see how the season goes. But
I feel that.
What do you got next?
Buy or sell that Terrence Davis is part of the nightly rotation.
Nightly rotation?
Because, well, just to preface that.
I get what you're saying. Because he was kind of part of it.
We said he was the 5th best player on this team last week, which he was playing like it. And like we said, at the end of the day, what that says is the Kings have a lot of problems. They're not getting consistent play out of some of the guys that you want to see be the fifth best player. But that's kind of changed now.
Yeah, it has changed. I mean, Davis, how much did he play against the Heat? Little?
He played like 5 minutes against the Heat, and I think it was the same thing against the Hornets.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. And he didn't have a good game against Memphis. But he was playing well up until that point. Monk was kind of still struggling. He kind of he's still inconsistent, but he's had a couple of good games where it's like, okay, this is more like the Malik Monk we thought we were going to have. And of course, Huerter's he's been, I think Sabonis might be that second best player again, but Huerter, I don't know.
Oh, man, it's
Huerter's been really good. He's been
tough.
really good.
Yeah, he's been insane.
Yeah, and so of course that leaves less room for Davis. And even like the backup three, he's not really getting those minutes at the moment. I don't know. It's kind of weird. He kind of just fell out of favor.
Can I tell you my theory about this?
Yeah.
The first, 3 or 4 games? Because Memphis was the 4th game, right?
Yes.
So the first 3 games, he played really well. We said he was the 5th best player. And he was playing like it. It's because the second unit was kind of disappointing in that first game. Those first couple of games. Things were very stagnant. And so, Terrence Davis, the aggressive guy that he is, he gets the ball and he goes. And he was playing well. He was knocking down his threes for the most part, which he hasn't. I think he maybe took 2 or 3 total in the last couple of games, or plus the Memphis, whatever he did in the Memphis game. But yeah, he hasn't been knocking it down. His 3-point percentage has dropped. But, I think he's shooting. Yeah, he's 31.3% from 3 ahead of this game in Miami. And, he really was, it was favorable for him to be able to take over. And he was pretty good at it. And you could still, talking about guys that are always going to be ready. He's going to be ready to go try and get it. I don't know if, shots are always going to fall for him. But it just kind of seems like, when Mike Brown talks about the rotation, he's like 8, 9 guys nightly, plus an extra guy that's in there every now and then. Davis is that extra guy that's in there every now and then.
100%. He's the best third stringer.
Oh, yeah.
On the Kings.
Yeah, he definitely shown up. Man, the shooting guards that they have, it's incredible.
Yeah, the shooting guard. I mean, you'd even be happy with Davis being your backup, I think, shooting guard. But like you said, I mean, Brown is really tightening up that rotation to that 8 or 9 people, and that's where Davis kind of gets cut. His minutes get cut. I mean, he's still going to play throughout the season. He's good enough. He's going to have those minutes there, but they're going to be spotty. They're going to be minimal. He's going to have a couple, maybe you'll have a chance of, someone gets injured, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to be in the nightly rotation going forward just because Mike Brown said they were tightening up the rotation and boom, Terrence Davis is gone. So,
probably in that alternating role.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be here and there, but nightly, you're not going to see consistent minutes out of him. So not nightly. So
yeah. But just before we move on to the next one, I just wanted to take a moment because we don't really have a topic for Huerter today other than the fact that he's really, really good. So I want to take a moment to appreciate Kevin Huerter.
Should we just give 10 seconds of silence for Huerter's greatness?
I think we should give a round of applause.
Okay, let's go. Kevin Huerter, Red Velvet, the Big Hurt.
That's really, he just shows up. He comes with I'm not really, you can't really be impressed with a lot of these guys' costumes except for his.
Who is he?
He showed up in a inflated thing where he's in the body of the alien, but the alien's head is behind him, and it looks like he's getting carried.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
It's just the funniest thing, and he's
shooting 53%.
Yeah, I'm crying.
From 3, 50% from the field, 18 points a game, 4 assists. Yeah, I wasn't expecting 4 assists from Huerter.
Oh, him in the 2-man game with Domas, it's just he gets 2 or 3 assists just from whether it's Domas getting a dunk or Domas pulling up. He had a couple mid-rangers in these last couple of games. And it's him and Huerter have just been just to get Fox off the ball a little bit and just to attack different defenders and give them different looks. It's just Huerter has just been him and Domas just look so good
Uh,
together. And it's incredible. And he's played really well on the defensive end. I think he's got, I was talking about Lyles having a good defensive rating. I don't know actually if I mentioned that, but Lyles has been having a good defensive rating in his 4 appearances this year. But Huerter has a respectable one, and he's been playing a lot of minutes. He's got a 109.7. I think like usually he's well over 114,
mm-hmm.
like 115, 116. So he is, and we pointed this out at the beginning of the season that it's like, yeah, he's a two-way talent. He's really developed on the defensive end, but he still needs some work there. I mean, like sometimes you watch his tape in Atlanta, there's times where he gets kind of caught flat-footed and tries to just use his hand to get defense, to defend, to defend the penetrator. And sometimes that results in a foul. Sometimes that just results in a free lane to the basket. And it's just like, sometimes he's not always engaged. You saw his engagement go up defensively in the playoffs, where his defensive rating and performance is far better. And so like the question was, can he take that next step defensively? And so far through 6 games, very early, he's just doing it on both ends. He feels like one of the best players on this team. And we were saying it last week. I mean, he is. That mix of the top 4 players is tight in a way. I mean, like Fox kind of seems like number 1 right now. But,
Yeah, easily.
But the other 3, it's just like, and then Domas, I still feel like he's so important to what they do.
Yeah,
you take him away, it's such a big issue. But it's just like the way Herter's knocking down threes right now. It's like the same thing.
Yeah,
he's been super good, both ends of the floor, and like you said, just filling up the stat sheet. I mean, obviously he's not going to shoot over 50% all year, but it's like, will he shoot over 40? It's like there's a decent chance. At least the way he's showing up right now.
Man, this Kevin Huerter is a shooter the Kings have needed in Sacramento for the longest time. I feel like we always get like, we just don't have like I just feel like Sacramento has not had a legit knockdown shooter. Like it's in Herter's hands. Like like he takes a shot. Like I have a good feeling that shot's going to go in, and
so does he.
Yeah, exactly. It builds on that confidence. So for me, that he's confident,
Yeah.
And so it's just refreshing. It just feels nice that you just have shooters, just not just Herter, just everywhere on the floor now with Keegan Murray. He didn't have the best game against Memphis, but he's still a good 3-point shooter. Or sorry, not against Memphis, against the Hornets. Yeah. Even though he had the best plus minus against them. But anyway, he's a good shooter. Monk, a little inconsistent, but I still trust him shooting the 3 ball. Barnes, I mean, he's usually, more consistent. We'll get to him in a second. But it just feels nice that they actually have good shooting wings, and Huerter is 100% leading that charge, and it just feels nice to have like a legit knockdown 3-point shooter. That's what you needed next to Fox too. Yeah. He's what we all wish Buddy Hield would have been.
Yeah,
honestly, like,
yeah,
smart guy, can play defense, can shoot the ball well. Buddy, that IQ just never rose, or his ego got in the way.
Yeah, Buddy could never play the 2-man game because it'd become a 1-man game very quickly.
Yeah, and he's a terrible dribbler too. So.
Yeah, that becomes an issue when you're dribbling it off your shoe top. But, I mean, yeah, he's just been terrific. But you mentioned a good thing there about Keegan Murray, because we saw Keegan Murray, at least shooting-wise, look very human. Human, not humid. And I guess the question is, buy or sell that Keegan Murray is still valuable enough to be like closing lineup type of guy, even when he's not hitting his shots, as was the case against the Hornets. And you mentioned the plus minus.
Yeah, 100%. He's a good defender. I mean, he's always trying. He's enough of a threat on 3, even if his shot isn't falling. He just looks so good already. He's just someone I already trust to make the right decision. I don't know, which is big to me. I guess as a Kings fan, I'm just not used to having like guys I trust on the floor at all moments. So like getting that Trey Lyles and getting that Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray, where it's like, okay, like these guys are usually going to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. It feels nice, and I definitely feel that in Murray, and he's definitely earned that. Good defender, going to make the right decision. Enough of a threat, even if his 3 isn't falling. It's like, if he's like, 0 for 8, like, I still trust him to make that shot at the end of a game. So, He's definitely a closing lineup guy, and he's also your best power forward by far.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I don't know. Sometimes you'll see him guard the wing,
Mm-hmm.
Barnes guard the 4, which I think is better
Yeah, it is.
because Barnes is just like, and we'll get into him in just a second. But it's
Oh,
just
we're
like,
gonna lay into him.
but it's just Murray is just so versatile defensively.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just got such good hands too, and all around a disciplined player. He's just made for that both ends of the floor, and obviously, like like you mentioned, it's like even if he's not hitting it, everybody's talking about how on the scouting reports. I think I heard the Miami announcers talking about it. They were saying like, yeah, this kid's scouting report, it's don't leave him open on the perimeter. And which, if it says that, it means that for the whole game. You don't like Chimezi Metu, whatever.
Yeah.
Keegan Murray, you do not give that guy space because even if he's not shooting well, don't let him get hot.
Mm-hmm.
That's stupid. And he's already at that level.
Yeah.
It's like the guy's played 5 games. It's ridiculous. And I don't know. It's impressive because it's like one of those things where, they're pointing it out every 2 seconds. Like, Murray's not having a great shooting game here in Charlotte. Okay, all right. It's just like the whole game, you just see him he's not doing anything to really hurt you.
Yeah, he's not.
I feel like the only time I've seen him do stuff to hurt the team was like one time in the third quarter against Miami, I think. He had like a really bad turnover. But like maybe he's had a couple other turnovers this year, but it's just like the guy is sharp, and I don't know. It's nice because it's like the guy's facing adversity. Does he force up shots? What is he going to do? And I mean, like we kind of already knew with Murray because I remember there's it might have been the second summer league game. It was the second or third summer league game after he was tearing it up in the previous games, hitting like all his threes basically. He didn't have a great shooting game, and he was having a really bad first half. And he kind of he started facilitating, staying out of the way, just using himself to stretch the floor, not trying to do too much, letting other guys kind of score. And he's doing that in summer league. And, like it's a moment where it's like, after his first game in summer league, it's like everybody's talking about him. Look at whatever he dropped in that game. And it's just like one of those things where it's like he doesn't get too high and on himself, and it would be so easy to because he's so good. And just to be able to face that adversity, to do it in an NBA game, to not feel like he has to do too much and affect the game in other ways, that's just like guy should have been number 1 overall pick. I mean, maybe not.
Banchero said,
Banchero's very good, but
I'm excited to see that matchup on Saturday.
Yeah,
Banchero Murray, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
Banchero looks really good, but
that was fun in Vegas when they played.
Oh man, if we can get a repeat
Call
of that game,
yeah,
he's gonna be a starting center today. Sabonis backing up, but I'm looking forward to that. Murray's awesome. Definitely your closing lineup. He's still a top 4 player on your team. I think it's Fox, Sabonis, Huerter, Murray.
Yeah, in
that order. Well, maybe it's debatable. It's debatable.
We didn't get back into this topic because I could not decide.
Yeah, I can't either,
honestly.
But
it doesn't matter. They're all really good, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So Murray, to get that from a rookie, though, that's probably the most impressive thing.
But you know what's upsetting about that? And I'm going to transition. Is that those are 4 starters. But the 5th best player on this team, I can't say it's that 5th starter.
Yeah. So buy or sell. Can Barnes get in a rhythm anytime soon?
Oh, my goodness. Harrison Barnes. I've talked so much hype about this guy going into the season. He doesn't have to be the second scorer anymore. He's going to have a great year. 11% from 3. He's had a couple decent games recently. But God, it's kind of disappointing, disheartening. He looks slower. His defense, you always kind of thought Barnes is a solid defender. Kind of looks like he's lost a step or something. Man, I hope so. It's like such a bad answer. But geez, he needs to get into it. I mean, he's such an integral part of this team that, and he's going to be, even if he puts up small numbers and stuff like that, which I thought he would do, and he's still like rebounding well, and but his defense is bad. You really need to rely on his defense this year. It just hasn't looked that great. Um, Jeez, I don't know. He needs to. He needs that 3-point shot to fall. He needs to be the ultimate 3-and-D guy, and
Yeah.
he isn't at the moment. And I don't know. I don't want to say age. He's only 30, but it
Mhm.
looks like he ended last season at 29 and came in at 37. He just looks so much slower and different, and I think he has it in him. He's a pro's pro. I mean, it's Harrison Barnes. If anyone's going to do it, you could say it's Barnes. He's that guy. Like, he's not talent wise, but he's going to work his butt off to get back into it. That's just who he is as a player. So I think he can, but I don't know if he will. And I mean, is there a point where it's like, he's in a contract year and the Kings are not like, I think they're not all in, obviously, not like a championship team, but they want to make that play in at least, like at this early stage. And like, is there a point where it's like, okay, well, maybe we don't want this guy next year. His stock is falling. If he continues to play bad, you just try to ship him off for something. Like, when does that come? Like, what if? Like, I think you said it before this. If it's 10, 11 games into the season, he's playing like the way he is right now. Like, do you look at some trade scenarios to try to get him somewhere before his value drops even lower?
Yeah. I mean, I think you know, being so prone to be skeptical, I think I kind of believe Mike Brown when he said that like this is a different distribution of minutes that Harrison Barnes has been used to. And look at the last couple of games. He usually comes out 4 or 5 minutes into the game, comes back in later in the first quarter, and kind of these interesting kind of substitutions. Maybe that takes adjustments. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but I do think that there does come a limit where you are going to have to ask those questions. But he's looked slightly better. He has his moments still where defensively guys will just get by him. He looks a little more in tune to the rotational stuff on defense, but still there's moments where he's making a mistake and Mike Brown has to call a timeout. That might have happened against Miami or Charlotte. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but it does happen a lot this season. And, offensively, the 3-pointers, like those have got it. You're not going to shoot 11% all year. Those are going to start falling at some point. Got to maybe get him to his spots better. I haven't really looked at his shot chart this year. I don't know where he's putting up his biggest volume of threes. If it's him, that would have been a good thing to do. But looking up to see if he's missing the spots where he's usually nailing it. But those are, you have to expect that those are going to start to fall. You see him in these moments too where he does like his drives to the rim, his deceleration. And like sometimes it works, but like other times it just kind of he just dribbles into nowhere or passes into nowhere or gets blocked or something. And um I I almost look at that and I'm just like, that's got to be a sign of just he's got to get with the flow and get a little more cohesive with this team. So I almost give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit, but defensively that is an issue. I mean, he's never really been. You never wanted him out on an island with any talented wing player. He
No.
can kind of bang with some fours,
Hmm.
I remember when he was in Golden State and they were doing first introducing the small lineup. Everybody was talking mad crap about putting Harrison Barnes at the 4. Like he can't guard Kenneth Faried. He can't guard this or that. And it's like he was a wall in there. And
Yeah.
he's not. He was much smaller as a first or second year player. And there's ways to get this to work, and I do think that there can be an adjustment period. However, there will come a point 13, 14, 15 games into the year, like, what was that, Thanksgiving time, and
Hmm.
maybe into December, and then you have to kind of look at something. And I don't know who, maybe it's, I don't know, who, one person off the top of your head would probably be Jay Crowder, right?
Yeah, just because he's another small forward who he's a good player and he wants out of Phoenix. I don't think he's played this year because he doesn't want to play until he's out off the Suns. So I mean, Barnes, he can be, I guess, promising for a team like the Suns, even if he's playing bad, because he has such a good history that, if he was to turn it around anywhere, it'd be on a team with championship caliber potential. And, getting Jay Crowder, a good defender. Jay Crowder has been very consistent his whole career, kind of just like a 3-and-D guy that you're hoping Barnes could be this year. I guess just taking a chance on him if Barnes isn't working. Only issue is that with the Barnes Crowder trade, it wouldn't work salary wise, just like straight up. I think you have to knock off another 5.5 mil from the Suns cap. So that's where it gets tricky. If they add in a guy, are they going to want more back and stuff like that? I've kind of fiddled with the trade machine, but there's nothing I've seen where it's like, oh, this is a good deal. Like there might be, Suns like, yeah, it's not a good deal for us, or maybe they add in one of their guys and we add in like Trey Lyles. It's like, oh man, like do we want to lose Lyles at this point? Like when's the So I don't know. It makes sense in that scenario, but I hope that it doesn't come to that point. I hope Barnes can turn it around. I really like Barnes, and I think he can have a good year. It's so early. Like you said, 11%. Dude's a career 37% three-point shooter. Those shots will start turning around, but at the end of the day, it's that defense and just getting in tune with everything. Like I said, if it's anyone that can do it, it can be Barnes, and I guess I'll change my answer. He will turn it around, and he's going to have a good year.
Yeah.
He'll get back on track.
Yeah, with Crowder, it's like one of those things where it's like you're probably upgrading defensively. But it's like at the end of the day, he's older than Barnes. You're thinking about a situation where you got to involve a third team. What are you giving up? All that stuff. What are the it becomes tricky. But I mean, it's one of those things where I guess if it gets to that point, maybe you think about it. But that I feel like you're really expecting like Barnes to he will have fallen off the wagon at that point. And now you're talking about a situation where, well, now Phoenix won't want him. So it's like, I don't know. It gets tricky. It'll be interesting to see. Even if Barnes starts playing moderately better and they think they can get an upgrade on the other end. But, Crowder's 32 as opposed to Barnes being 30. I don't know. It'd be interesting. But it's kind of hard to foretell at this point. But, Barnes can probably figure it out.
I think, I think he can. But it just, again, like the word I've been throwing around a lot, it's just disappointing. I didn't expect Barnes to have a start to the year like this. Maybe closer to the All-Star break, but I don't know. It's just very unlike Barnes this early on. I feel like he's just a pro. He comes into the season ready. So new coach, not like it's his first new coach in SAC, but I don't know. Maybe just a little different. He hit 30, new decade for him.
He looked at himself in the mirror on his 30th birthday and said,
yeah,
I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yeah. It's like, what happened to that time in Golden State, in Sacramento for 4.5 years now? Jeez, what has become of my life? I haven't sniffed the playoffs. He's a liar. He said he wouldn't shave his beard. I'm a little petty about this. He said he wouldn't shave his beard until the Kings make the playoffs. And he shaved it after the season. Like, no, you grow that thing until they make the playoffs. I don't care if it's 5 years. Don't make that promise.
Yeah.
If you're going to shave it and you're just going to, just bail out. I don't know.
Couldn't you see him like braiding it? He looked like a wizard.
Dude.
Like braid it or something.
Oh.
He could like rub it on the sideline when he's like
I would love that.
Drawing up plays on the clipboard.
He should do it. He's a liar. Sorry. He lost all credibility. I changed my answer. He won't turn it around.
I bet if he played in Washington, he'd really go with that wizard look.
Dude, you're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah. Harrison Barnes, man.
Yeah.
We're going to start calling you Harry.
Yeah. What's up, Harry Barnes?
Okay. But next one I got for you is buy or sell. And I have a feeling this one will be quick. Does Bill Simmons know what he's talking about?
No.
Yeah.
Bill Simmons sucks. He hates Sacramento. He just does. Like, if you look up his tweets in the past or his takes on his podcast, it's just like, I mean, it's easy. We're an easy target, which is annoying. It's like, oh, wow, that's shit on the Kings. Like,
Yeah.
that's original.
Also, he's a national media, not even really he's not a journalist. He's just a personality. He's entertainment, like most mainstream TV things are. And he's just on there talking. And you could see how half baked his idea was. Like, oh, well, Davion Mitchell played well. And De'Aaron Fox is not good enough to be an all-star. Obviously, he's never watched any game.
But explain it. Explain for those who...
That's essentially what he said. He was saying that because
give a nice summary.
He was saying that because everybody knows that the Lakers are trying to get rid of Russell Westbrook, and they've been very hesitant about getting rid of 2 future first-round picks. And Bill Simmons is basically, if I'm not mistaken, positing the idea that with Davion Mitchell playing well in Sacramento and with De'Aaron Fox never having been an all-star, which he firmly believes means he's never going to be an all-star, essentially is what I grabbed from that.
Yeah.
That maybe the Kings would be willing to, do the trade to basically dip off Fox to get 2 first-round picks, and Russell Westbrook either ends up with them or someone else, because there could be a third team involved there. I think a lot of people have talked about a third team being involved in any kind of Russell Westbrook thing. But that's the gist of it. Very, like I said, it's just like whether it's him, whether it's Colin Cowherd, whether it's Rich Eisen, whether it's I could go on and on. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith. These guys really like maybe sometimes when it's the highest echelon, like Stephen A. Smith can give you some valuable analysis about the 2 finals teams, but he's not going to give you good analysis about most of the teams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He can tell you what's happened in the finals so far, but he's not really going to be able to tell you, well, this reminds me of when this team was struggling back in, March or something like that. It's like, he's not going to be doing that. They're not providing really the best analysis. They're just trying to get attention. And they want probably, like you said, it's an easy target, and Kings fans will get revved up, and you're getting clicks, and fans are ruthless about other teams, and they always will look to kick on other teams. Although I do think that the Kings fans get a lot of sympathy. In the NBA world, people will refer to them as loyal, almost to a fault. But that's kind of a good thing, I guess, if you're a dog. But no, it's one of those things where I guess with Bill Simmons and with any of these guys, they'd never know what they're talking about. More often than not, they have no idea. And when it comes to De'Aaron Fox, they don't know.
No, I mean, it's this dumb trade proposal to trade Fox at this point. Like, I mean, if it's Davion, and if Davion in this situation was Halliburton, it's a little different discussion. But I mean, Davion is a good starter. Like we said, he started well, but you don't have that confidence in Davion that you had in Halliburton or that you have in Fox currently. So it's dumb. He's an idiot. I'm sick of talking about it.
That's silly. It's kind of all for buy or sell, but I did have an extra bonus topic.
Yeah.
Because I forgot to mention this when we were talking about Holmes and Len not really living up to expectations. But with that, and of course, like, this is obviously hindered by the fact that the Kings could not trade Holmes, and they seemed kind of optimistic that things could work, at least from Matt George's report at the beginning of free agency. But with the fact that they're not playing well, and it's just 6 games in, and so, like, this is just kind of like kicking the idea around. But man, imagine if this team had been able to retain Damian Jones. For all the issues that you have, especially defensively, Damian Jones would have been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of our crush at the end of last season. We really liked Damian Jones. He was kind of a nice surprise. I remember when we got him at the, kind of the end of the 2021 season. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But he's very surprising. He seemed like he developed like a mid-range game, was good on the inside, seemed like a smart player, wasn't going to force anything. Like we said, we really like those guys who know their roles really well and aren't going to go out of bounds of them. And he was that guy, especially at the end of last season. He played fantastic. When Sabonis went down, really got a nice share of minutes towards the end with Holmes out as well. And so Um, I mean, it'd be weird because, of course, I like Damian Jones a lot, and it's kind of sad when we couldn't keep him. But I don't know. I still don't know how much playing time he would get behind Sabonis and Holmes, regardless of how bad Holmes is playing. Because it's like a lot of potential rests on Holmes' ability to be good off the bench, and you kind of still need to work on that, regardless of how bad he's been. But I think he'd be better than Alex Len.
Yeah, and I think what I'm asking is obviously having Holmes hinders any chances of getting Jones.
Yeah,
Like contract wise, depth chart wise, it just doesn't work out. So, but like, imagine if they could have you could somehow ship off Holmes and sign Damian Jones. Damian Jones, like you were saying in the end of last season, he was so terrific at attacking the glass offensively. He had like a couple of tip and dunks. I think he tied up the game in Phoenix when Domas got hurt to send it to overtime.
Yeah,
I believe so.
Jones.
Yeah.
He also had that tip in against the Pacers.
That might have been maybe that might have been that. Well, maybe it was both of them.
Yeah,
But he's terrific on that end. Like he said, he's good in a pick and roll. He can get some lobs sometimes, and he was pretty decent with his jump shot.
Yeah,
like 15
surprisingly.
feet. I know he really worked on it, and it's just like we're talking about it. It's like, okay, Holmes has been disappointing in switching, being able to switch. That's not necessarily Domas's strength to begin with. Len is just absolute liability switching on anybody smaller than him. Damian Jones would have been the best, most versatile center on this team defensively.
Yeah.
And his ability to protect the rim as kind of a roving rim protector, because he's like 6'10", 6'11".
Yeah.
Not like super imposing height-wise, but he had so many blocks from behind, like countless. He would have like 2 or 3 block games in that like final 11-game stretch, whatever it was.
Yeah. He was really good.
He was terrific. And you always point out the fact that when he was in Golden State, he'd guard Klay Thompson in practice. And it's just like, he really was always good switching out on the perimeter. And we always pointed that out. I remember we wrote an article, like, man, this guy's going to be in a rotation next year. And one of the big reasons was his ability to switch. And he would have just been exactly what they need. And obviously, maybe you want a little different form of rim protection, but it's like you have that behind Domas. I think that second unit is just with it. And for whatever's going on with Holmes, I just feel like Damian Jones is just like level-headed guy, kind of would have really fit in with Mike Brown's system. Not to say Holmes doesn't, but I just think that like to see Damian Jones on this team as the secondary center as opposed to Holmes, and maybe even getting rid of Lynn too, or whatever the case may be, just having Damian Jones be the backup. Man, I just feel like this team would have a lot of the issues that they have now, 6 games in, solved. He was just terrific.
Yeah, I think he would fit into Brown's system really well, and it's just nice having he was he's 6'11", like you said, not super imposing, but taller than Holmes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not big. He's a built guy. He wasn't like skinny. He was like pretty well built and very athletic at the same time. So, yeah, it was sad to see him go. Yeah. I was disappointed, and I was looking up his stats right now while you're talking, and he's only averaging 10 minutes a game in LA.
Yeah, he wasn't. I don't think he played in the first 2 games for the Lakers.
So I don't know. Come back, Damian. Trade for him.
Seriously,
trade Barnes for him. He can play the 3.
Damian Jones would probably honestly be better out on an island against a guy than Harrison Barnes is right now. But it didn't really work out for the reasons we laid out. I think that if the Kings could have, they would have kept Damian Jones. But it just didn't work out. I don't know if they had the money for it. I don't know if they could have been able to do it depth chart wise. Combination of that, just because Holmes is there, couldn't move him, maybe didn't want to move him, whatever the case was. It sounded like they couldn't move him, and they were just like, all right, we'll stick with him. Can't be that bad. I'd really I would, if I had to guess, just pure speculation, I would guess that the Kings would have had Damian Jones as their second center. Would have been cheaper. Would have been better.
Would have been cheaper. there's still that potential that Holmes.
Yeah, I don't actually want to take away, because I said he would have been better. It's not like they knew that. They were still like, man, if Holmes plays full potential off the bench, it's like you have that starter off the bench.
Yeah, but if Holmes, like, I don't know, I think he's just not happy. I just don't think he doesn't want to come off the bench. He didn't sign that contract to be coming off the bench. Yeah. And I think he just, he definitely, like, this guy played with energy. He barely played off the bench in his time in SAC because he replaced Dwayne Dedman so quick. But he was like awesome off the bench in those first 4 games 2 seasons ago. And you just hope that he would keep that energy. It's a perfect guy off the bench, a spark plug at that time, or he doesn't have that same energy, and that's just such a big part of his game, and it's just gone. It just seems like he's there to do the motions, and that's not the player Richaun Holmes is. That wasn't what made him so special, and it seems to be gone now. And I think that's why I think he's upset, because that energy just seems to be it's just vanished.
It also could be, and I said this at the beginning of training camp, on media day, they asked him, I think Sean Cunningham asked him, like, it seems like everything's cleared up, but I mean, like, use everything like behind you. And like, he's like, yeah, like, fine. And it's like, of course he's going to say that.
Yeah.
Like 75% of things athletes say, especially about personal stuff, is just, they're not telling you the truth. And I think when it comes to that, I even said it, on the podcast, and I'm sure other people have thought about it too. It's like, I don't know if I necessarily believe that. That was a big deal. Whatever was going on, whatever the case may be, when anything that's involving that kind of situation where it's a family entanglement, especially that it involves a child, again, regardless of whatever the case was, it sounds like everything was cleared up. That still affects you. Even if everything's quote unquote behind you, there's still residual effects.
Yeah.
Like these are blood relationships. And that stuff can get bigger than basketball. And whether he wants to admit it or not, sometimes that can affect him. I don't know if that's the case, but in the spirit of speculation, it has to at least be considered.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree with that.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of it.
That all we got today?
You got any bonus topics?
No. I don't really have any bonus topics. I think we covered it well, and Kings play tonight against the Heat. Try to make it 3 straight wins. That'd be awesome after starting the season 0-4, and then potentially make it 4 straight against a team like Orlando on Saturday. So we'll see. No Fox tonight. Not sure his status going forward, but we'll see if they can beat the Heat twice in a span of a week, and if Davion can continue playing well as a starter in the his career. So any thoughts to wrap it up?
Yeah, no, I guess on that note, it'll just be interesting. It'll be interesting to see the range of ball handlers. Delly will be out there, but you got other ball handlers, Huerter, Monk, Davis, if you see Davis. It'll be interesting. So looking forward to this. It's fun to play a team that you beat at home, and then you get to go to their house and they're really revved up to beat you. Yeah. Other than they're coming off a back-to-back against the Warriors. And yeah, so this will be interesting. Be nice to see the Kings win a game like that where the other team's coming off a back-to-back. Although they are on the East Coast. That's tough.
Yeah, that is true. But they showed resiliency against Charlotte. Maybe they can show some tenacity in Miami. Not an easy place to win. But we'll see. I guess we'll find that out tonight.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you all for tuning in as always. This is Tony and John. Until next time, have a good one.